Okay, we should. There we go. I had to reset everything. Sorry about that, guys. Geez, I had everything working and all of a sudden it just stopped working on me. Computers, what can I tell you? Man, I need another one of these. Oh, thanks for sticking with me. Holy crap, that sucked. Um, okay, so all right, so thanks for sticking with me. Sorry, I'm just trying to gather myself here. Um, all right, well, I said a bunch of stuff and nobody heard any of it, so let me just go ahead and start over with some of that. Thanks, Ben, for calling me. I had a feeling something was wrong when Ben was calling me and I couldn't answer because I was hooked into the system. And so thank you very much, Ben Burnett, for calling me. Had you not done that, I would have probably talked for a half an hour and not even realized. I usually check my meter there, but for some reason tonight I just didn't. Okay, so, all right, let me just start over. Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope everybody had a good holiday. Okay, so what I'm doing tonight is I'm going to take a really popular amp, which is the MT15 by Paul Reed Smith, and I'm going to hook it up to my Helix via 4-cable method and show you guys how to do that. I wanted to give a quick shout out to Jamie Trevino, the Law One, the number one, on YouTube if you want to follow him. He helped me get this MIDI situation taken care of on this amp. Now, typically, running MIDI from the Helix to most amps that take MIDI, it's very easy to do. No issues. Usually it goes fine. Even the control out on the Helix works great with most amps. This thing here was an absolute, it's a great amp. Love it. But programming it for MIDI was an absolute nightmare. Because what you have to do, let me just start out with this, is you have to go out of your MIDI into the Voodoo Lab control switcher. Okay? And then from the control switcher, TS out into the foot switch in on this. That's how you control it. So it converts MIDI to TS and it'll work it just fine. But then you got to go through all these different codes, which don't make any sense at all. And thanks to one of the guys over on one of the forums for the Paul Reed Smith, and he helped us out with it as well by giving us some advice. Make sure your Helix is up to date because in some of the updates there's bugs in the MIDI controlling, and that was causing issues when we first did this. So we updated to 2.8.2 or whatever, and it fixed the problem. So just so you guys know, make sure your Helix is up to date before you do any MIDI controlling with this unit or other units, because chances are you're going to have issues. Let me say hello to some people here. Francis, what's going on? Jim Lund, what's happening? Throw a tube scream on the audio stream. Yeah, I will. I'll do all kinds of stuff for you guys tonight. Let's see. Darren Kara, awesome. Thank you very much. Oh, you like the cover to Take on Me? Sweet, man. I'll pass that on to Carrie. I'm sure she would like to hear that. Thank you so much. Let's see here. Tone Wars rocks. Thanks, Gravel Rocks. Appreciate that very much. Jim Sieben, what's going on, man? Ben Burnett. There you go. All right, I got it. Holy cow, what a mess tonight with the technical difficulties. Thank you so much for helping me out. Mark Bowers, what's going on? Chicago Todd, in the house. What's happening, man? All right, well, we got 20 people here. So let's get started. So as you can see, I got a camera right here, and it's facing the screen of my Helix so that you guys can see what I did. Take a look at the amp here. Okay, so I already programmed it to do the MIDI switching. I'll tell you what those numbers are. And I had to do some practicing because it is a convoluted mess to program this thing. It really is. So, and then so there's the rhythm channel and the lead channel all in one. And then there's the clean channel, which is blue. So that's the programming that I did right there. So you could see that MIDI does work. Okay, so what you want to do for this is, I'll show you. All right, so right now I'm on foot switch number 2, okay, at the bottom. And what you're going to do is you're going to program that to be MIDI CC MIDI channel 1, CC 80, value 80. But here's where it gets weird. You got to go all the way up to the lightning bolt, and then you have to do the exact same thing. MIDI channel 1, CC 80, value 80. Okay? That's for the red channel, which is the rhythm lead channel, the high gain channel. Okay? So then I programmed this switch over here, switch number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to do the clean channel. And what you have to do for that is on the bottom switch, okay, you have to, whatever switch you're using. So on this one, switch number 5, you're going to go CC toggle. That's the program you're going to use. And then MIDI channel bass, CC 80, dim value 0, and lit value is 127. And then you're going to go all the way up here to the lightning bolt. If you don't do this, it won't work. MIDI channel C is MIDI CC on the lightning bolt. MIDI channel bass, CC 80, value 127. Then it works. If you don't do those things, it won't switch channels. And me and Jamie were on the phone for about, hour and a half or so. He was trying to help me out with it. Then he came over on Christmas Eve, and we were here for about 2 hours monkeying around with it. And he brought his Morningstar, and man, we did all this testing. It was nuts. But we finally got it to work. So that's how you program this. And again, it's not that hard with anything else. This is the hardest amp I've ever tried to program. Okay, so there's that. Okay, let's go to the home screen. I'm going to save this because I don't want to run into any issues. So we double check again. Yes, switching to clean, switching to dirty. So there we go. All right, so 4-cable method, in my opinion, is the best way to use the Helix. It's what it was meant for. Eric Klein even said that. He's the creator of the Helix. Great guy, genius, brilliant guy. He did a great job making the Helix. The amp sims in it are good, but I prefer real amps, and especially something like this. This thing's insane. It's a great amp. So let's go ahead and add effects to it. Okay? So, but the first thing that we want to do, sorry, I'm a little discombobulated from all that craziness getting started with the, the technical difficulties. So you want to do is you want to go down to your send return, okay, because I already have this all hooked up. And there's a graph that I posted in the description of this video. If you want to go to that graph, it shows a picture of how to hook it up. So I posted that in there for you. And what you want to do is go down, and I have effects loop 1 dedicated to the amp, okay, to go through. So that's basically what's going on there. Let's double check and make sure that works. Sounds like we got tone. Hang on 1 second. Okay, so effects loop 1 is the amp block now. Okay, so what I want to do is put an overdrive in front of it. Now I use an external overdrive. I love the Precision Drive by Horizon Devices. It's by far one of my favorite overdrives, probably top 3. So that's in effects loop 2. Now you can use just a regular overdrive if you want, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to be using some pedals and some internal stuff on here. So that's in effects loop 2. Let's go down there and send return mono effects loop 2. Bam, there is my overdrive pedal. Okay, so let's go ahead and hear that. Okay, got that working. I'm going to keep, putting this in bypass until we get some other stuff going on here. So I made a list of things that I want to put in here. I'm going to switch to that screen now so I don't forget. Let me scroll down. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's make some room too You just hit action, drag these guys down a little bit. Always make yourself some room. Okay, so let's do some, let's turn on a noise gate. What's nice about the Helix is you could turn on a noise gate without putting one in the chain, taking up room in your chain. That's kind of a nice feature. Let me switch back to my screen here so I can make sure I can see what I'm doing. So we're going to do a phaser and a flanger. We already did the OD. So let's go ahead and do a modulation. Let's do the script mod phase, which is basically Eddie Van Halen's phaser. Let's check that, see how that sounds. Okay, that sounds pretty damn good. So let's go ahead and do, let's do a flanger. I think that was the other dealio I wanted to do. I used the gray flanger. Let's see how that sounds. Let's bypass the phaser. All right, check this out. All right, sounded pretty damn good there. Okay, so what we want to do is, the beauty of the Helix is, see this little arrow here? You can just turn that down, and now you get a whole new set of effects that you can fit on this row. All right, so that's a nice feature. Before we do that though, let's put in another noise gate after the unit. So this is right after the amp, so we can clamp that down, and I mean, you're gonna hear amp noise no matter what, but let's see what we got here. Okay, so we got the noise gate. Let me pull up my... Oh, Chad Boston, thank you so much for the super chats. Appreciate it very much. Damn fun. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Ben Burnett, glad you went live. Busted up a boring week. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for the support. Andrew Stonerock's asking, what is your gain on the amp set at? Way too much for my taste. Okay, I mean, I'm a metal player, and it's set at 1 o'clock. You know, that's where it's at. And, you know, I mean, when you mic things, they do sound a little more aggressive than usual, especially, you know, in an enclosed mic kind of situation. But, I mean, it's just 1 o'clock, so it's really not that big a deal. But, I mean, I could just put it at noon. Either way is fine with me, you know, just for the sake of the video. But let me pull up my... Yeah, if you play metal, I mean, yeah, you don't slam the gain all the way to the floor, but I mean, you use, you know, an aggressive amount of gain. All right, so let's do some chorus. So I'm going to go down here and put in a chorus pedal. Under modulation, we're going to do... I usually use just the regular chorus pedal. Now, I'm going to adjust this. I'm going to take the speed down to like 2.2 and the mix is way too high. Let me show you why. Hang on one second. That is way too high. You know, you don't want to hear the chorus, you just want to hear what it does. It should give you a little, little width and a little bit of modulation, but it should not sound like, 80s crocus chorus. Let me hear this. I got it down to 25% now. That sounds good. Nice and full, and it doesn't sound too shimmery. So that was easy, just a couple of, I just slowed it down to 2.2 and took the mix down to 25%. Done. Very simple. Yeah, don't judge effects in any effects unit by how they are when you first select them, because they're always going to need to be tweaked. Don't say, "Oh, that's terrible. I won't use that chorus." We'll just turn the mix down, and that'll solve a lot of problems. So let me go back to my list here: phaser, delay, and reverb. Now I know what some of you are thinking. I thought you already put a phaser in here. Well, phasers sound different before and after the amp. Okay, so, or flangers, I mean. So you can get like flangers. I'm going to use the same flanger now after the amp, okay? And it's going to sound completely different. It's going to have that washy kind of thing as opposed to that weird, well, I'll show you the difference. Hang on one second. Okay, so that's the phaser after, or the flanger. I keep saying phaser, sorry. It's the gray flanger after the amp. Here it is before the amp. 1 second. Two totally different characteristics. So that's why I do that. I use one before and one after, depending on what I'm going for. So that might be a trick that somebody may have heard about, may not have heard about, but that's a good trick to use. And of course, delay and reverb. You always want to put your delay before your reverb so that the repeats fall into the pool of reverb as opposed to the other way around. So I'm just going to go with a simple delay. And let's do a delay for rhythm. So I'm going to turn it down to like 20% just to give you a little bit of, a little bit of size in the rhythm. What I use for like I have two crunch or rhythm channels. I have one for just a dry crunch, and then I have one for like a big crunch. That's what I call it. So for that, I'll use reverb. I'm sorry, not reverb, but I'll use chorus mixed with a little bit of delay to give me some size and a little bit of shimmer and modulation. And the two mixed together on big parts of songs really makes a difference. So I think that would probably work right there. Leave the trails on. Let's hear how that sounds. Sounds good. I didn't really have to do much to that. It's at 600 milliseconds. And for delay on leads, I will use about 850. But on rhythms, about 600 is fine. 20% feedback, 20% mix. Now I'm going to turn the chorus on. with it and give you the full spectrum of what my favorite type of settings are for a big rhythm channel. So that's what I would use if I'm going into a chorus or something like that, which I just played. That's a chorus of one of our songs. And it just opens it up and gives you, the audience, a little different feel for when that comes. It gives more dynamics and stuff like that. So, all right, so I got to keep remembering to turn these off. And I'll get to your guys' comments. I'm sorry. I just want to focus on this right now because I don't want to get sidetracked for people who are just coming for the meat and potatoes here. So my favorite reverb on here is Searchlights, and I'm going to turn the mix way down. Let's see here, and the decay is fine. Pre-delay, let's do a little pre-delay on this so that you can hear the notes that I'm playing without the reverb swallowing them up. Let's hear how this sounds. Okay, so that's if you want like the end of a song and you want to hit a big note and let it just kind of melt away. But obviously that is crazy amounts of decay, so let's turn that down. And again, just whatever to taste, you know. Turn it down to 4.3 on the decay, mix is 20%, and the pre-delay is 10 milliseconds. Here we go. That's pretty good. Let's take the high cut down a little bit because it sounds a little tin canny for what I'm trying to accomplish here. 1 second, I'm down to 5 kilohertz on the high cut. Hang on. Yeah, that's a good start. Now, obviously, everyone's taste is different. You'll want to have more or less or whatever. But I'm just dialing this in. I just grabbed some effects that I like to use, and I also added some more to it that maybe other people would like to use. Okay, so that's basically, I got my rhythm channel pretty much set up. If I want to, have a lead channel on here, what I would do is I would just set up some snapshots for it to have more delay. And, that's probably all I would do. I would probably just turn the noise gates down or off, depending on what kind of leads I'm doing. And then I would just, design the effects to fit my taste for whatever leads I want to do. Okay, so now let's go over to the clean channel. Now all these things are on. Okay, that's the beauty of snapshots. So I'm going to turn effects loop off because I don't want an overdrive on my clean channel, obviously. The flanger I don't need. The phaser I don't need. But I'm going to turn all these off here. But I want the chorus, and I want the delay, and I want the reverb. So the beauty, again, of snapshots is I can hold these buttons down here that I'm adjusting the settings with. And you see how it puts the brackets there? Well, that immediately says that for this snapshot only, or this switch only that I push for this channel, those settings are going to be applicable, So, applicable. However you say that stupid word. So I'm going to take the pre-delay down. I'm going to turn the delay or the decay up a little bit. And I'll leave the high cut where it was. Let's leave it there. And I'm going to turn the mix up a little bit. Let's see what we got for our clean channel. Turn the mic off. I always do a little chicken scratch at the end to check the delays, you know, see how many I get and to see how big the reverb really is when I'm doing anything percussive. I think that's a great starting point, you know, and again, you can adjust all this to taste. Um, you know, so that's basically how you dial this in. I mean, you know, I could probably go on for hours and hours and hours about different aspects of this, but I mean, the switching works great. Switches back to the dirty channel, and whatever I left on there is now on. Let me check. Hang on. Yeah, everything's as it should be. So when I switch back and forth between these, all the stuff that I turned on and adjusted for my clean channel is waiting for me. So all I have to do is just hit save, and it's saved. I can name the preset, I can name all the snapshots whatever I want. So I can name snapshot 1 crunch, snapshot 2 big crunch, snapshot 3 I can make that like a regular lead, and then I can make snapshot 4 like a lead with a phaser on it, you know, and adjust everything accordingly and make sure that the MIDI programs align with what I'm doing. And then I can, you know, put my clean channel. I can have several, you know, different clean channels and stuff like that with different types of delays on them. I can have a reverse delay clean channel for something kind of eerie and spooky. Or I can have, like what I have here, just something kind of lush. 1 second. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I mean, it's very, very simple. And as you can see, I mean, in minutes I had this thing ready, you know, to do. And this is, like I said, this is the hardest amp to program so far. And it's no fault of the Helix. It's just they did not design this to work. There's no MIDI on it, so we had to find some workarounds. And I like this amp so much that it was worth the effort for me because this amp sounds absolutely killer. It's got a great clean channel. It's got an awesome, just ridiculous lead channel on it. That's just, I mean, Andrew, you've said it. I mean, just the gain for days. You know, I probably did have it. I was messing around with it. It's at noon right now. So that's pretty good. But here's the thing. The reason why I have a little more gain than usual on a one channel, like on an amp like this, what only has 2 channels. You got one dirt channel and one clean channel, is you got to find that sweet spot that works both for rhythm and leads. Because if you're a lead player and you shred your butt off, you need a little more gain and sustain and fullness for that. So you're going to add a little more, and you're going to, you know, sacrifice a teeny bit of tightness on your rhythm channel to get that gain that you need for your lead channel. But I found a sweet spot about 1 o'clock. So it seems to work really good for me. So when I switch back and forth, it's still really tight. It's very aggressive though. This is a different kind of gain than what a lot of people are used to. I mean, this amp has a very gritty, just filthy kind of gain, and I love it, you know. Let me read some of these comments now that I'm done with a lot of this anyways. Chad Boston, Pasadena. Oh, hell no. Yeah, those are terrible. Ryan Briggs, hey, how's the volume on that MT15? Does it jump from inaudible to super loud, or are you able to use it at bedroom levels? I've heard mixed views on that. Great question. I think you can use it at bedroom levels, no problem. Now, one thing I will say about the Helix is, and again, and just so you guys know, I'm not sponsored by this product or the Helix. I'm just sponsored by you guys and me. So I'm not trying to pitch anything to you guys, just to get that out of the way. But I'm just going to tell you genuinely, like, the things that I love about both products. And one of them, with the Helix via 4 cable method, since it's running through the Helix, like the amp block is running through this, you can attenuate this with the amp volume on the Helix. So I can crank this all the way up if I wanted to, and then turn the Helix volume down, because this is the pass-through, you know, and I can get all that great tubey, like, aggression and rage, but I can, and feel, but I can turn the volume down on the Helix to attenuate that. Now, I've had, I'm sure plenty of people are going to comment here either now or afterwards saying, "Oh, it technically you're not really doing that," but yes, you can. Yes, it really does work. It's kind of a poor man's attenuator, you know, because Ben, I've had a conversation with Ben, and he actually talked to a guy that works on amps and said that yes, the tubes don't care why you're turning them down. They don't understand what's going on. All they know is they're being cranked, and you're going to get all that stuff out of the amp because you're cranking the tubes. They don't care why. You know, they don't have brains. Tubes are dumb. All they know is we're heating up big time, and we're going to react to that, you know. So if you're looking for bedroom volume, but you still want to keep that great tube feel, if you run it through a Helix like I'm doing right now, you can crank this, because I got my volume almost at noon on this thing, which should be blowing our heads off, and it's not, because it's attenuated here. And I got the Helix at about 10 o'clock, you know, so it's attenuating it. So that really does help. But before I ran it 4 cable method, I did run it just, you know, straight up, and I didn't have really any issues with the volumes on it. I felt that it was pretty good, you know. Let's see here. Chicago Todd. Oh, he's talking to Ryan Biggs. Let's see. Looking to get something more manageable. Yeah, I mean, this. Hey, what's up, JJ's House of Jams? What's going on, man? Aaron Short, what's up, man? Good talking to you today. All right, so Ben's got 3 questions. What controls volume as you switch presets and channels? Okay. 2 is all the tone coming from the amp, and all effects coming from Helix. Okay, let me answer these one at a time. What controls the volume as you switch presets and channels? Like, okay, so what you're saying is, like, if I'm going from a dirty channel to a clean channel via MIDI on the Helix, you have separate volume controls on here, so you can set your volumes up accordingly. Now, a workaround with that is you can go to the amp block, all right, and see where it says mix or send return here. You can adjust those volumes too for each preset. So let's say you're dealing with an amp that's got 1 volume knob, and you for some reason your clean channel just isn't keeping up with your dirty channel. You can adjust that here on the Helix in a Snapshot and make up for that, which is another great reason why the Helix is an awesome product to buy for 4 cable method. It really is the best product out there, especially at its price range. But yeah, for tonight, I got separate volume controls, and I'm good there. And then you also asked, is all the tone coming from the amp? Yes, 100% of the tone is coming from the amp. I have a speaker out into a speaker cab that's about 15 feet away from me, and there's a Mesa 212 with a Sennheiser E609 mic on it. That's what you're hearing. Okay, and all the effects are coming from the Helix, and all the switching is coming from the Helix. What type of cables do you use? Does cable length matter? I forget what these are called. Mogami, I think. Yeah, I spent some money on these cables. And cable length does matter. After 20 feet, you might want to start getting buffers and stuff, because you can run into issues. I did get a pedal python. You can see back here, it's got a strap on it that keeps the cables from hanging off the amp, so it keeps the strain off of them. And I run all my cables through the pedal python. And while Chad's here, let me pitch, and again, I'm not sponsored, but Chad has Gear by Seba. Chad, post a link in here if you don't mind. And you can label all of your cables, and you could put nuts, like the colored nuts on your Helix here, that will correspond with whatever color jack, whatever color, like he's got colored, like, I forget what you call, like labels. You just wrap it around your cables, and then what happens is when you have to hook everything up, you don't have to read anything. You just go white to white, red to red, blue to blue, green to green, and you do the same thing on this side, and you never have to read anything. So that way, when you're on a dark stage and you're like, what does this say? You don't have to deal with that. I got stickers here, because some amps don't have removable nuts on them to replace them with colored nuts. So what you do is you take his stickers in the whole pack that he sends you when you buy them, and you just put a sticker here. Wherever, and then like right here, I have a blue, label here, and then a blue sticker on the amp. I just go blue to blue, red to red, green to green, white to white, done. I hooked this thing up in a matter of seconds. So, and I would suggest getting a pedal python. When I'm done here, I'll post a link to Pedal Python. Great guy, makes great stuff, and you can shove all your pedals through this sheath, and or pedals, your cables through this sheath, and then you zip tie them at the end and put a nice tight wrap around them. And again, it comes with this long strap that keeps your cables from straining. So you can get that, and it really makes life a lot easier. So when you're done, you're not wrapping up 10 cables, you're wrapping up one, and then the same strap will wrap all, the coiled cables all up, and you throw them in your bag or whatever very easily. And again, with the labels, between the labels and the pedal python, 4-cable method is very easy. You'll never have to read a diagram again. You'll never have to remember and look at your phone or get a flashlight out and read labels and wait a minute, does send go to return, or you don't have to think about that stuff anymore. You just color to color. Anybody can do that. It's very simple. And that'll save you probably, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes per setup every time you get on stage, and a ton of frustration. Now setups will be fast and easy and very stress-free, Ryan Briggs, great answer. I really appreciate it. No, it's my pleasure, dude. That's what we're here for. I mean, I love interacting with you guys. That's the funnest part about doing what I do, is just having conversations with you guys, If there's anything else I can do for you, I would really appreciate it, So, let's see here. Let me go back and make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, again, guys, I'm sorry about the problem at the beginning. I had everything hooked up right. Everything was right. All I had to do was restart something, and it fixed it. Computers, man. And I even said to myself, restart your computer before the night, before you go live. And I was like, nah, I'm good, Nope, I should have restarted, because that's what happens. So that's basically all you have to do when you're doing this. I mean, you just dial in your effects real quick, set up your snapshots, and you're good to go. It's very, very simple. And again, you can see the MIDI switching does work, And for you guys that are here late, just go back a little ways, and you'll see where I talked about the MIDI switching and how to program that. It's a very weird way of doing it, but it does work, obviously. So that's basically it right there. I mean, that's how to program this, and to do 4-cable method with the Helix. With any amp, it works. And with this amp, again, you want to use the Voodoo Lab control switcher, because this does not have MIDI on the back. And for some reason, the external amp out on the Helix sends voltage to this, and it doesn't like the voltage, and it creates this huge hum. So the only workaround was, some people said, well, you can just snip the ground wire, but I'd rather not do that. I'd rather just get the control switcher from Voodoo Lab, and pull my hair out for 3 days and figure out how to MIDI control it. through that, because snipping ground wires and stuff like that scares the crap out of me. Hey, what's going on, Michael Meslowski? Hi, Jared. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, buddy. Listening to this lovely broadcast with my new Strandberg. Oh, man. And a glass of good gin. Life is good. Hell yeah, man. It's good to hear from you. Really is. I have Canadian whiskey here from my buddy Dave Rebel. So cheers. I'm glad you got a chance to tune in. So what we can do is, let me set this guy up here with some delay and some chorus. So there's my big rhythm right there. Let's hear the difference between the tight rhythm and the big rhythm. So there you go. You know, it was that simple, and so I can just save that. You know, go back here, save that. So now Snapshot 2 is my big rhythm, and so on and so forth, right down the line. You know, I can go to a lead channel, you know, and I could turn on the delay. Oops, that's the flanger. I don't want that. And then what I want to do there is push in. You see the brackets, so now you know I'm switching, you know, I'm just doing it for that preset. That's the beauty of snapshots. No latency. You can go in between anything and change anything, and it's very simple. So I'm going to do 850 milliseconds. The feedback I'm going to turn back up to 35%. And there's another thing. Just give the button a quick tap, and it takes it back to the standard settings that it came with. So I'm going to go up to 40% mix. I'm going to go 45 because in a mix that does make a difference. So go back here, and there we go. So now I'm going to run through all three. I'm going to do the dry crunch, and then I'm going to do the big crunch, and I'm going to do the lead. Here we go. I'm not used to non-stereo delay. Yeah, I'll have to dial that in a little different. I usually go stereo and you get the ping pong. It fades out differently. So, but tonight I'm going mono with everything just because that's kind of what the average rig is. Yeah, so probably about 33% on the feedback, 35 on the mix, 850 milliseconds still. But yeah, and then I forgot to save that snapshot with the other stuff, so that's why I had to readjust that. But there we go. Now it's all saved. So that's it. I mean, I got my crunch, my big crunch, and my delay all set up. And obviously, these are not final settings. These are just generic, kind of like good starting point type settings. And then what you want to do is you want to check it in a mix. Check it at band practice. Check it with, if you got, like what I do, I'm lucky. I got my studio engineer sends me mixes without the guitars in them. So I'm able to practice, have band practice anytime I want at my house. And I just run the tracks through my stereo system, crank it up, and play through my amp and Helix through it. And I test all the effects and everything, make sure everything sounds great. And it just sounds incredible in my living room. I have a great time practicing in my living room. Sometimes I work up a pretty good sweat in there practicing. I mean, I get into it big time. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun. And that way I could kind of fine tune my effects and make sure that, everything's sounding good. Because with chorus, you don't want too much shimmer and warble, because then it sounds like Crocus, like I was saying earlier. It sounds real dated, and you get that sheen over top of your tone, and it glasses up your tone too much, and it just sounds awful. It takes all the edge off. So you want just enough to stand out in a mix, though, to where you can hear that it kind of darkens up your tone in a good way. It kind of gives it that murky but still edgy kind of tone. And then for your delays, for rhythm, they should be subtle, but you should be able to hear your rhythm open up and get bigger in a mix. If you can't hear that, add a little more, but don't go too far with it, because you want to stay tight, and I only use it for a lot of chord playing, like I'm doing, just doing like a chorus where I'm banging chords and maybe doing a couple of palm mutes in between and stuff. It's fine. But if you're doing a lot of chunky, like single note stuff, just use it sparingly, or not at all. But I just use it for the chorus usually on songs, because that's the big part. Now for leads, you want to go kind of big. And again, I'm not used to the mono stuff. I'm used to the stereo stuff. But a good lead setting for your delay will be a little too much for when you're by yourself. So a lot of times I'm just practicing leads by myself at home, and I don't have any backing tracks going. I'll actually turn the lead down, or the mix down a little bit on the delay, because I don't need to hear all that. It does. But in a mix, you're going to need it, because in a mix you got drums, cymbals, you got maybe keyboards, another guitar player maybe, or bass player, and you got this big room that swallows everything up, and you got people in front of you. So all that stuff matters, because you guys know when you're sound checking in an empty room, everything sounds kind of hollow, but when everybody shows up, it tightens up more. Well, all that stuff sucks all of your effects too out of the air. So you want to have your lead, settings as far as your delay goes, a little too much by themselves, so that when you're in the mix, you can hear them, but they're not interruptive and they're not distracting. They're just there, and you can hear your notes kind of spin around the room a little bit, and that's what you want. When you pull out of a lead and you go back into your rhythm, you want to hear those trails come behind it. But again, it shouldn't be obnoxious. It should be subtle but noticeable. Those are the two words that you want to keep in mind with your delays for leads. Subtle but noticeable. Obnoxious is bad. You don't want it to be like that unless you're going for that. A lot of times, like you're ending a song and you want to pull out of a note and just have it kind of do something crazy for a few seconds while you're getting ready for the next song. Absolutely. There's exceptions to everything. But subtle and noticeable are what you generally want to kind of go to for that. And that should serve you well. Let's see here. Ben, links for Gear by Seba and Pedal Python listed above for those who are interested. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, because that stuff, I'm telling you guys, if you're going to go on stage without your stuff labeled and color, without the Pedal Python and the Gear by Seba stickers and labels, you're crazy. I mean, I used to do that, and it used to drive me nuts. By the time we started playing, I was pulling my hair out trying to remember where everything goes. It's stressful enough when you're getting there and the band that just finished playing is getting off the stage, and you got to throw all your stuff on there. and get started real quick. Your adrenaline's pumping. You start second guessing yourself. You're putting sends to returns, and you're putting things in the wrong place. And you get up there and you're like, "What's wrong with my rig? I can't hear nothing." Well, you didn't label your stuff. If you label it, you can give your cables to anyone who's never plugged in stuff before, and you can say, "Just match the colors, dude. Red to red, blue to blue." And how can they screw that up? It's impossible to screw up, So I would definitely suggest getting that stuff. It's going to make a world of difference when you're performing. I mean, performing's stressful enough. Why would you want to make it more stressful by not being prepared, Let me make sure I'm keeping up with everybody here. Let's see here. Another question. Oh, Ben had another question. What is the biggest no-no with 4-cable method? Biggest pitfall, if there is one? Ah, boy, that's a good one. Okay, well, I kind of touched on this earlier with the whole labeling thing, but not labeling your stuff and not using a cable snake or a pedal python. Those are the two biggest things that you can do that would really screw it up, because that's why a lot of guys get intimidated by it. Like, oh, I got to wrangle all these cables and put everything everywhere. It's like, if you label it, you can do it in literal, like, seconds. Like, I got 20, and get a 20-footer, because every stage is different. So get a 20-footer, get 20-foot cables, and just call it a day. And, I mean, when I'm done here, and I got to bring all this stuff back upstairs, I'm going to unplug 4 on this side, 4 on that side. I'm going to wrap it up, bring it upstairs, and bring everything back up there. In less than 5 minutes, I'll be set up and ready to go again. No problem. I don't have to read anything. I don't even have to think. All I have to do is go blue to blue, red to red, white to white, green to green. Same thing here. Everything's done. So, and again, if you don't have removable nuts on the back on amps and stuff like that, just put the stickers there that are color coordinated with whatever labels you're going to have on your cables, and that's all you got to do. So I would say that would be the biggest pitfall. And I've talked to, like, Aaron Short and I have had conversations. He's like, I just don't want to be bothered with all of the hooking of the cables and stuff. And I said, you got to get a pedal python or a cable snake or something, or pedal snake. Yeah, it was a pedal python or pedal snake. I said, you get either one. He ordered the pedal snake, and he called me the next day. He's like, dude, this freaking saved me so much time. Now it's not intimidating anymore. It's not hard. It's not frustrating. It's very easy to do. So I would say that would be it, to be honest with you. Let me field a couple more questions here before we call it a night. Guess that's it. We got 13 people here. We had like 20 or something. And again, guys, I'm sorry about the intro. That was just a computer glitch I had to get figured out. Now I got to go back and edit the beginning of this off for the rewatch. Let's see here. Make sure here. Scott Schultz said, I'm really interested in how the M15 sounds. Man, he said, hello from California. Hope you guys are still here. All right, so let me give you a couple more sounds of the M15 and the Helix together. I'll run through the crunch, the big crunch, and the lead and the clean, okay? And then we'll call it a night. 1 second here, and we'll get started. That's one hell of an amp. I tell you, the clean channel on it is absolutely glorious. I love it. There's nothing bad I can say about either channel. I mean, if you want rage, this amp's got it. If you want glorious, beautiful cleans, this amp's got it. And the best thing that you can pair it with is, I would say, the Helix. I really firmly believe that. I mean, you know, you can go out and get a pedal board full of a bunch of different pedals, but which one's going to MIDI switch your amp? You're going to have to get the Patchmate Loop 8 switcher or something like that. Yeah, you can get maybe a Morningstar or something like that. Yes, there are options and workarounds, and they're great products. Or you can just buy a Helix and have everything you need in the Helix as far as effects and switching goes. And you know, and it's very easy to use, very flexible with the snapshots. You can have 8 or even 10 snapshots to change the channels on this amp, add great effects to it, and have all that flexibility. And I know, like what some of you guys are thinking, like, well, I don't need all that. You know what? I've heard that before with people that buy cars. I don't need a heated steering wheel. I don't need a backup camera. I don't need four-wheel drive. I don't need, you know what? But I'll tell you, once you get that stuff, you'll never want to go without it. You know, you really won't. I don't need remote start. Really, what about when it's cold as hell outside and you got to run up to the store? You can start your car 20 minutes ahead and have everything warmed up for you. Same thing in the summer with the, you know, air conditioning. I mean, it's the same thing with this. I don't need 3 different flangers. Yeah, you do. You know, it adds to your creativity. I mean, the Helix is like a color wheel that controls your amp. You know, it's got more colors than you can ever imagine using, but when you need those weird colors and you need some of the weird stuff that this does, or even some of the normal everyday stuff, it's all there. You know, along with the control, the quality. I've had my Helix since they came out. I think I was the first guy in Michigan that got them. And it's been great. It's served me well the whole time. It really has. And I haven't had any issues with it. And again, some people kind of get mad at me, especially the fanboys in the Helix group, like, oh, are you so hard on it? I'm not hard on it. I don't like the tones that it gives me as far as the amp sims as much as this. I would pick this 100 times over any amp sim. I don't care. You name the digital platform, I'll pick a real amp over that any day. So it's not just the Helix, it's any of them. But I love the Helix for the control, switching, the routing, the effects, and the flexibility, and the ease of use, and the price. I mean, you can't beat it. It's the best product out there for what we're talking about tonight. There's nothing better. Yeah, people say, oh, Axe Effects, you know. Well, all right, go buy one. Go buy an Axe Effects for $2,000 and then buy the pedal to use with it for another several $100s. And basically get kind of the same result. I mean, if you want to do that, go do it. You know, I'd rather get the Helix because to me it makes more sense. With the effects, the control, and the price and flexibility, I'm not switching to anything else. I mean, I got plenty of reverbs, I got plenty of delays, choruses, and you know what? I use pedals too. And the Helix allows me to do that because it has 4 effects loops. I didn't show you all that tonight because I was trying to do a basic setup for guys who would probably just use the Helix for everything. And so, I have a flanger by TC Electronic, which is John Petrucci's flanger. It's the Dreamscape pedal and his chorus pedal. So I have that. I have different overdrives that I like to cycle through because I like real overdrives. Because let's face it, if you're going to use this, here's a tip. One of the biggest downfalls Ben was asking me. Here's a good tip for you. This is a real amp with real tubes and real circuits in it. Okay? The best advice I can give you if you're going to use the Helix 4-cable method is get a real overdrive pedal for it. Will the pedals in the Helix work as far as the overdrives? Yeah, they'll work pretty well, but I would rather push a real amp with real circuits and tubes with a pedal that has real circuits and stuff like that in it. I just feel that the interaction between the two is going to be better than using a digital version of a pedal to push a real amp. A digital pedal to push a digital amp, fine. But if you're dealing with a real amp, get a real pedal to push it with. And the Helix has 4 effects loops. And the nice thing that they thought about at Line 6 when they made the Helix is they designed it to work with your gear and to add gear to it. They knew that you would want to use your own pedals too, and they gave you 4 effects loops to do that with, which I think is brilliant. I think it's a genius thing. So for the fanboys who are out there, like, man, you're kind of hard on the Helix. No, I'm not. I love the Helix. I use it every day, but I use it differently than some of the guys do that use it in all-in-one. I prefer real amps to use with it in 4-cable method for the reasons that I already discussed. So, anyways, if anybody else has any questions, let me see here. Aaron Green, what about the HX effects instead of the Helix? That is a good point. That's a great question. So the HX effects, there was something... I wish Jamie Trevino was in here tonight because him and I had a conversation about that. There was one thing that differentiated the two, and I'm trying to remember what that one thing was. I know it doesn't have as many effects loops, but yeah, I mean you could do it. Yeah, you could absolutely do the HX effects with just about any amp out there and use that for control, switching, and effects. Yes, you could. So that could work as well. See, I already had the Helix, so the nice thing about already having it was, for me anyways, it was like, well, why buy something else when I already have the mothership here? So yeah, absolutely you can use the HX effects. But there was one thing, and it wasn't a deal breaker, but it was one thing that Jamie and I talked about that was like, oh, well, all right, that makes sense. But there's workarounds for just about everything, but I can't remember what that one thing was. I'm sorry. But yes, to generally answer your question, it would work just fine. Yes. HX Effects was basically the Helix without all the amp sims, and I think it didn't have as many, obviously it doesn't have volume pedal or whatever on it, expression pedal, and as many loops on it. But it would work, yes. Okay. All right, so Michael's asking, since we've briefly stepped into the pedal effects territory, a really cool find, Quiet Theory Prelude, Delay and Verb. Oh, nice. The best sound writing accessory I've ever heard in a while. I'm going to have to look that up. Thanks for the heads up on that. I want to check that out for sure. I would like to check that out. What's it called again? The Quiet Theory Prelude. All right. Man, that rings a bell. I think, was it Rabia did a review on that? I think Rabia did. And Gravel Rock says HX Effects, yes. Yeah, it would definitely work. There was just one... God, I wish I could remember what Jamie was saying to me about that. And it wasn't a deal breaker. It was just one thing that I liked that it would do, but you'd have to find some workarounds with. But, I mean... But the thing is, though, guys, I mean, I've come full circle. Like, I went from amps to full digital, and then when Synergy came out with their stuff, I went back to amps with their Syn 5050 along with all their modules, and I started getting into the modules from Salvation Audio, which are also freaking killer. And then when this thing came out, I didn't really pay much attention to it last year when it came out, or earlier this year, but I did a review of it a couple weeks ago, and I brought it back to the store because I have a deal with Motor City Guitar, which, by the way, I Motor City Guitar, my favorite store around here, and they let me take gear home to review it, and I really appreciate that. And this was one of the things that they let me take home to review, and I didn't intend on buying it. It's just one of those things where I keep it for a few days, I bring it back, and thanks guys, blah, blah, blah. Well, this thing haunted my dreams, for 3 days after I brought it back, and I was like, I gotta have that. I enjoyed playing through this so much and loved how it sounded, the feel of it, the flexibility. and both channels are 100% usable on it. I was like, I'm going back to get it. And I had a guitar sitting around here for 4 years that I haven't touched, and I traded it in and paid a little extra money, and brought it home, and I'm super happy with it. I mean, I couldn't be happier. This thing is amazing. So if you guys haven't used or checked out the MT15 yet, go check one out. These things are insane. They're just killer amps. They really are. And I guess that's a testament to the Helix too. Is I've had this thing for almost 5 years now, and every amp that I bring home, it works it. Like I had the JP2C here a couple weeks ago. This thing controlled every aspect of that amp, no problem. And it took me 5 minutes to set it up and figure it out. I'm telling you, get an Helix or an HX Effects or something like that to pair with your amps, because it'll work them. It really will, and it's very easy. It'll handshake with all of them very simply. I mean, yes, there's probably exceptions out there, but for the most part, you're going to have zero issues with this. It's going to hook up to them and run them and give you great effects and control very easily, and it's going to allow you to be creative as opposed to being corrective. You get to be creative with this thing and do whatever you want with no limits. I mean, I can do whatever I want right now with this amp and set it up any way I want with the Helix, and it's just going to be awesome, you know. So that's a great testament to this thing. Every amp I bring home to review, I control it and add effects with the Helix, and I've had no issues. The only issue was this guy, but it wasn't Helix's fault. It was the amp's fault. It just wasn't made for that, but I found a workaround again with the Voodoo Lab control switcher. So basically I'm sending MIDI out on my Helix to the MIDI in on the control switcher, TS out on the control switcher to TS in on the foot switch in on the back of this. And then I just put in the right numbers in the MIDI control, and it works. So let's see here. Barry says the M15 is awesome. No, it is, man. I'm telling you, this is one of my favorite amps. And Carrie and I are going to be live this Sunday, and I'm going to go over products of the year. And spoiler alert, this is going to be one of them. As far as products of the year are ones that either came out this year that I reviewed, or just products that have been out for a long time and I just reviewed them this year. And this is definitely on the list for sure. I've been playing through this nonstop ever since I got it, and I love it. I absolutely love this amp. Let's see. Can you save? George is asking, can you save the looper after you record it? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. You could put a looper in here and it'll record whatever you want. Yeah, but I don't know what you mean by save it. I'm not sure, but yes, you can record on either channel. Like a lot of times I'll write solos over clean stuff because it's just easier to distinguish what I'm playing over top of cleans, and it just feels better. It's more inspiring to me. So I'll record something on the clean channel through the looper, and then I'll write a solo over top of it with my lead channel. So you can switch channels if that's what you're asking. Can you switch channels with the looper going, and will it save what you recorded? Yes, you can. Yep. Nancy says hi. Hi, Nancy. What's happening? Let's see here. M15 is amazing. Barry says yes, it is. Put a Benson preamp in front of the MT15. Oh, that's a good idea, Michael. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. I got tons of overdrive pedals here that I love, but I'll have to look that up. You always have really good suggestions, by the way, so I'll look into that, and that delay reverb pedal too. I'm going to look for those. He says the gin is kicking in. No, my whiskey's kicking in too, buddy. It's been a long day. Let's see. George is asking, can you put a tube screamer in front of the MT15? Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, warm chord music. What up, players? What's happening, man? Yeah, George, you could put a tube screamer in front of it, no problem. In fact, let's do that real quick. Let me go from using my precision drive, and I'll just use a digital tube screamer. And let's see how that works. I already know I'm going to prefer my precision drive, but just for giggles, let's do that. Let me bypass that, and let's go into Scream 808. So level all the way up, tone in the middle, gain all the way down. All right, let's see what that sounds like. 1 second. Okay, the Tube Screamer, the digital one, yeah, that worked pretty well, actually. I think that it would get you by, but I definitely preferred the real pedal. I just like what the Precision Drive does. It just does such a great job. But yeah, I mean, you could put the digital one in there, and I think a lot of guys would be happy with that. But me knowing what I know about the Precision Drive and how much I like it, I would stick with that. But if I forgot it, I wouldn't, because it's, practically welded to my board. But if something happened to it and I had to use the internal overdrives, I wouldn't be upset about it. But I would definitely, prefer the real thing. So let me see what else we got here. Okay, well, it looks like we got 19 people here. I'm going to wrap it up in a second, but I just want to see if you guys have any other questions or any other requests that you want me to do before we wrap it up for the night. And I'll be happy to do that for you. George says, sounds really good. Thanks. Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, I mean, I guess the two. Let's just go over the takeaways for tonight. Is for me to give you guys, buy this amp. And again, I'm not sponsored by Paul Reed Smith. I'm way too small. He doesn't even know who I am. I'm a speck of dust for that company. But this is a great amp. It's 17.8 pounds. It's very portable, very easy to use, very versatile. Sounds absolutely amazing. I mean, this thing is a beast. I have yet to meet anybody that hasn't liked this amp. Yeah, everybody that's come over and played is blown away at how good it is. Pair it with the Helix, or if you already have a Helix and you're considering going back to amps, don't sell your Helix. Keep it, because you're going to fall in love with your Helix all over again when you pair it with a good amp, and you find out how useful and versatile it is, because it's going to control it, add all the effects, and be extremely flexible and easy to use. Don't sell your Helix if you're going to go back to amps. Get a good amp, pair it with the Helix, or an HX Effects or something like that, and you're going to be 100% satisfied with it. You really are. I would highly suggest doing that. And the other takeaway would be go to Gear by Seba and get their labels and their colored nuts and stuff, and start labeling all your stuff. Because and get a pedal python. I'll post a link to them after the video's over. And then just wrangle all your cables. Put them all in one spot. They're all labeled. You can literally hook up in seconds and be done and not worry about it and be stress-free and know that everything's hooked up right. No more guesswork. So I mean, I would just suggest those things tonight. If you got nothing else out of it tonight, you know, those are the things that I would like you to get out of it. You know, 4-cable method is very easy. Hopefully, the way I described it and set it up tonight, it showed how easy and you know, simple it is. Um, and yeah, I just think that you're going to get the most out of your Helix if you use a 4-cable method. And I dare anybody to put an amp up against any digital platform and prefer the platform. You're just not. I think the amps are really going to sound better and feel better for you. Again, the Helix was made to work with your amps, not to replace them. And that's, if you use it in that way, you're going to be very satisfied with it. Chicago Todd, thanks. Have a great evening. Thank you, buddy. Have a great night. I really appreciate you stopping by. I hope you have a great New Year's Eve and all that with your family. Be safe. And hopefully we'll be able to hook up, because we've been talking about doing that with the blue cab. So I want to do that. Ben Burnett says the Tube Screamin' added thicker mids and the bottom was not as tight. Sounded good, but the precision drive was tighter with more mid focus. Yeah, that precision drive is just nasty. That thing will just take an amp and slap it right in the ass and make that thing just wake up and yeah, and bark at the moon. I mean, it's just an insane pedal. It really is. Between the Helix and the Kemper stage profile, which one is more versatile? All right, I'll end it on this note here. Great question, George. All right, let me just put it to you this way. If you're looking for an all-in-one unit that's going to have great amp tones, great feel, and a lot of great flexibility and options for you, but you don't want to use real amps, you just want to simplify it and have one pedal board to slap on the floor, then you want to go with the Kemper. The Kemper definitely is the absolute best sounding all-in-one rig out there. I've already done shootouts. I've had blind shootouts on the show. We've done fight nights between the two with several different players, several different genres, and the Kemper's won 3 times now against all the big players out there, and it's proven itself. And last time it was picked 4-1. We only had 5 musicians down here, 5 guitar players, and 4 out of 5 picked the Kemper in a blind shootout over the Axe FX 3. But if you are wanting to, you know, a good 4-cable method unit, get the Helix, you know, because that's what it was designed for. The amp sims in there are good. They'll get you through a gig if your amp dies, but you know, the amp's always going to be preferred. And that's, I think that, I don't want to speak for Line 6, but I kind of feel like that's why they're there. It's like, well, if your amp dies, we got amp sims for you, and you can use them in there. And they're good. They're good amp sims. Are they amazing? They're not amazing, but they're good. They'll get you by, and you'll be able to do a show with them. But as soon as you get your amp fixed and back up working again, you're going to prefer that. So again, if you want to replace all your amps, get a Kemper. If you want something to work with your amps, get a Helix. That's what I would suggest. Okay. Michael says, cheers and have a prosperous 2020. You too, buddy. Very good seeing you here. I hope you're enjoying the hot springs. I don't know if you can enjoy those this time of year or not, but that would be pretty cool if you could be out there this time of year and enjoy those. Great seeing you, buddy. I really appreciate you stopping by. And let's see. Jason Taylor, great info as always, Jared. Thank you. Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate that immensely. Seriously, I really appreciate it very much. I know today was kind of a last minute kind of live stream. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it or not, and then I decided, well, I might as well do it. It takes about 3 to 4 hours to get everything set up, sound checked, and ready to go, but it's worth it because I get to hang out with you guys and share information with you, and I get to learn from you guys too. So I really appreciate you guys watching, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Carrie and I will be going live Sunday night and going over top gear of the year that we've reviewed. Whether it's come out this year or not doesn't matter. It's just gear that we've reviewed. Some of it's new, some of it's not. But I just wanted to wrap up the year with that. And, well, again, thank you all very much. God bless you. Hope you all had a great Christmas. And also, if we don't see you, I hope you have a great and safe New Year. And we got much more coming your way in the year 2020, and we're looking forward to hanging out with you guys then as well. Cheers, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I greatly appreciate you spending your evening with me, and I'll never take that for granted. So I will see you guys all soon. Have a good night.